Hello and welcome. So I'm doing a little bit of an experiment today because I'm going to be going on tour. So I wanted to try a beach paint to test out, to see what works, what doesn't work. So any feedback you'd like to give me on this one, please let me know. But I'm going to just have a little play around with some paint, do a bit of a tutorial at the same time, and we're just going to see how we go. Please ignore my two pups that have come to the beach with me today. They get a bit protective if new people come up to me, so we'll hopefully be okay. All right, so I've got some paints here. I've got them in some travel size containers. I've actually just picked these up off of Amazon. They're actually shampoo travel containers, and I've just filled up a whole bunch of them with my different colours. So I've got them nice and easy and portable for myself. I have a little dog water bowl, the adjustable ones for my water. And then I'm using a portable easel. Now this one is quite a well-used one. This one was bought secondhand and it's quite beautiful, well put together. But you can also get them off of the works or places nearby at your local craft store. And just see what works for you, really. Then I've got my palette as usual. I would probably get a heavier palette in the future because this one's blowing a bit in the wind. So let's get started. I have my brushes today. I've got my baby and daddy brush as per usual, and I've got a palette knife as well. I want to keep this tutorial quite free, lots of movement, so I'm just going to keep it nice and fluid, and the palette knife is going to help me do that. So I'm going to start by deciding where I'd like to frame my image. So I can either do that by squinting or just closing one eye, and I can put my fingers out and frame the image that way. Or we have the modern way of having a look on your phone, and that will crop that image for you, and you can just decide where the best placement of that will be. So I only want to get one of these pillars in front of me in, so I'm just going to crop that on my screen in that area. I can take a photo of that one just so I know my crop area of roughly where I'm deciding to cover with the area of my canvas. So now that I've got that there, you may not be able to see that, but I'm going to post that separately for you so you can see that image that I've taken there. And that will be your reference, so if you'd like to paint this along with me, you're more than welcome to. I'm at Ferry Beach on Portsmouth Island on the Eastney side. So if you feel like coming down and having a paint of your own, this is the scene that I'm painting from there. So that's Ferry Beach in Portsmouth on the Eastney side of Portsmouth. So let's start painting. So I've got my reference image here to know where my crop marks will be. Then I've got the beautiful scenery behind me, so I know exactly what I'm painting. And look, I've got my little doggy to the side that's decided to dig a hole. Lovely. All right, let's grab some paints. So I'm going to start with just the basic sea painting scapes that you would use. So you've got your blues. So I've got my light blue and dark blue. It's quite hot today, so you may find that your paint dries out quite quickly. I do have the wet palette option that's posted in another tutorial in our summer section of our tutorial pack. So you can have a look at that one to see how you can keep your paints nice and wet throughout the process. So I'm just going to mark out where where all my lines will be for this one. So I'm going to begin with just having a look at my little reference there, and the C line kind of moves across the center there. So I'm just going to put a line there. All these lines are going to be covered up, so don't worry too much about if they're clean lines or if they're a bit messy. As long as you can see those lines, that's all we need. So I've got my line across, that's where the sea and the water meet. Then I've got the water line, so I'm going to bring that one across as well. That one's a bit higher. I'm going to need to make that a bit straighter later on. And then in the foreground we have this lovely old jetty coming towards us. So I've got a few lines coming down, so I'm just going to bring them across. So I've got 1, 2, 3, it's probably coming to about there. Just watch out for perspective with this one. As it gets closer towards us, it's going to get wider. As it's further away, this is why I need a solid palette. As it's further away, it's going to start looking smaller and have less detail. We've gone in nice and close with this one, so I'm going to add a nice big pillar shape in front. There we go, that's my shape. So I've got my sea behind me, got Hailing Island off in the distance, my water line, my sea and sand line, and then these seaweed bits coming towards me. So I'm going to block these in with a under painting first. So to do that, I'm going to use the opposite colours that you'd think you'd need. So we're going to use opposite vibrant colours underneath, and then we'll add our beachy tones on top to give it that kind of really vibrant feel to it. So I've got some pink and some red, and I might use some of my dark blue as well to get my shadow tones in. So my brightest colour that I'm going to use is the pink, I think it is. Let's have a look. Which one's brighter? Oh, I think my red is slightly brighter, so I'm going to use my red first and fill that in. So ignoring my foreground at the moment, I'm just going in with the sky first. My dog just ate too much sand. Good one, Teddy. Thanks for interrupting the vid. Beautiful, and I might switch that to some pink. I'm using water just to loosen this up, make it a bit lighter. So what I'm doing here is I just want to cover the entire surface of my canvas with some undertone colours that are just going to make my beachy colours on top really pop. So we're going to go nice and light with these, and then I'm going to go really heavy with my beachy tones later on. So that's my sky through there. Then I've got my ocean. So for the ocean, I'm going to go really deep with this red. I notice that I'm not really staying within the lines. This is a really rough painting at the moment. I just want to get that whole area covered. I'm going to chuck some of my dark blue through there as well, just to make this show some darker areas in the water. Washing off my brush before I go lighter again. So for my sand, I'm going to marry that up with the sky and go back in with my pink. And nice and watered down. So you can see I've ignored my my subject in the painting for now, and just focusing on laying down the base colour. And you all must be thinking, what the hell am I doing? That's not beach tones. I know. We're not gone for beach tones just yet. So I'm just using a bit of extra water just to fill in any gaps that I've got on there. Make sure I get in all those little crevices of the canvas. Excellent. Nice. So this is going to dry really quickly. That sky is already dry because I've used quite a lot of water, but also because it's quite hot out. So the next colour I'm going to go with is I'm going to start blocking in my sky. So I said I was going to be using my palette knife. Oh. Very protective doggy. So I'm using my palette knife and I'm going to go in with some white and my light blues. So I'm creating the sky, but I just want to give it a bit of vibrancy in there and let that pink show through as well to just give it, you know, that little extra something. So this is the type of painting that's not going to look like it's anything for a while, and then all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, that looks cool. So I'm adding in some white to my sky first, just going along that horizon line, going a little bit higher where it reaches Hayling Island. Nice. Next I'm going to add some of my light blue, so you can go straight in with the light blue. Now I'm going above and I'm using my creative license with this one. So we're painting a blue sky because it is quite blue today, but we don't want to make sure it's just blue. We want to make sure it's got lots of texture in there. So I'm going to fill this in right to the top. I'm not worried about those gaps coming through. I quite like that pink underneath. It's bringing out some lovely contrast. So I'm just really smudging it around with my palette knife, leaving those textures without trying to smudge it to finish all those gaps in. Beautiful. I'm just going to bring a lighter tone of blue in now. So I'm going to grab what I've got left of my light blue and just fold that into your white. I've got a bit of pink that's dribbled in. I'm going to just mix that in there too. Nice. So now I've got my lovely sky. I may come back and add another layer to that later on, but I'm going to move on to my Hayling Island sandiness first. So I need some more white paint, and I need some brown and some yellow as well. So I'm going to part mix them together, but I'm also just going to leave them in their wholeness in some areas so that I can just grab from that as well. So going in with my lighter tone first. And dragging that across. Nice! I'm also going to be using this for my sand area below, so I'm going to start lighter first. I'm going to grab some white. Always need lots and lots of white. Maybe worth taking 2 packs of white with you when you go out on your travelling paint sessions. Let's grab some more paper, some more tissue, wipe off your palette knife. And going in with some white first, just dragging that along this baseline here. Going in with my yellowy tones and dragging that through as well. It's my sandy tones. Might need some more sandy tones. Dragging that through my white, letting it blend together. Let's grab a bit more white in there. Filling right to the bottom. Beautiful. Excellent. Let's bring in our final background colour, which is going to be our blues for our water. So starting light again, going in with white, then light blue, and then a darker blue through there too. So white through there first. Let's go straight into that light blue. into the dark blue. And then back over to some light blue again. Now this is the only time so far that we've tried to create a straightish line, so how I'm going to achieve that is by rolling some paint on just the side of my palette knife there and dragging that across along my horizon line. So just blending those dark blue and light blue tones together, bringing it into my white, blending them up and down. Beautiful. Now if you want to go in at this stage and think if you've got too much of your background showing, you might want to cover a little bit more up, but I would advise you just not to go over it too much, because it's really nice to have those colours showing through, and it's a great experiment in trying to be a little bit looser with your style and just seeing what forms. My favourite style of painting is abstract, so I'm just leaning into that a little bit. Let's add a little bit more of a shoreline. And I like doing this while it's all still wet, so it blends with the colours around it. Now I know we've lost our subject matter for now, but that's all right, we're going to bring that back in. But it's still helpful to add those lines at the start, just so we're aware of where we're taking it. It's just a little mental reminder of what we need to do next. Beautiful. I'm going to pause here, take the dogs for a quick dip to cool down, and then I shall be back. All right, Ebbs, out the way, it's painting time. Come on. Oh. Okay, so we've got our lovely background, and now we're going to add in our subject matter. So I'm going to do that with the brown. So I'm going to add some brown to my palette. Maybe even a little bit of, no, I'm not going to use black. I don't like using black. I'm going to use dark blue as my shadow tone. Bit of dark blue. And a bit of yellow as well, so I can get some greeny tones in there, which we haven't used just yet, but I love adding some green. I might add some green to my my sky and my water as well, we'll see. All right, so I've got I've got my brown, I've got my white, I've got the yellow. I'm going to start off with just using a white and the yellow, mixing those two together. And I might even, let's go back with a bit of an undertone. So let's do orange, so white, yellow, red. Let's make a nice orangey tone. So let's bring in that subject matter again, which is our lovely big bridge in front of us, for old jetty. So I want it roughly in this direction here. It's overlapping into the sky. So great images. What really makes them soothing to the eyes when there's a balance between all the layers. Now, because we've got the water in our central area, and then we've got a subject matter that's bringing all the elements together. So it's touching the sky, it's touching the water, and it's touching our foreground. And that's what makes a great subject matter. So just to get this in there, because it's a little bit hard to find the shape with your palette knife, I'm just going to block that in again with my daddy brush in there. So my 3/4 brush. 1, 2, 3, bring that across. And then I've got a few lines coming out. Nice. Just so I've got that in there. That's going to be a little bit easier. And now I can start adding my browns. I'm going to leave that red on my palette knife. I don't need to wash that off. I'm just going to continue on with my next colours. This is all about being a bit free with your painting style. Experimentation is the best way to create your own style. So let's bring in my sides. Now, because I'm working with the camera, I'm making sure that my canvas stays where it is. But when you're working with a palette knife, you might find that different angles work better. So just work with the angle that works best for you. So if you need to turn your canvas around to get the best angle, just feel free to do so. So I'm just going in with my lightest colour first, which is white and brown mixed together. Going straight over that red. So I've just added some highlights. I'm using that mostly for the top of my old jetty bridge. And then I'm going to go in with some darker tones. So I'm going to pick up some of my brown and just drag that over the top. This is going mostly in the bottom section. I might even want to add just some little texture lines in there as well. It's got so much texture already, but you know, extra colours. The more tones you can add to this, the more interesting it's going to look. Nice, so I'm just going in with brown. This is just solid brown paint. And then we've got our lumps coming forward. Now, in the actual scenery itself, we've got 5 lumps, but I'm just going to do the 3 just to keep it nice and simple. And so it's just going to keep it a bit easier to add our details because we're working with such a big palette knife. It's just going to make it a little bit easier on ourselves. So as it's coming forward, these little bumps are getting bigger and bigger. Until the very one touching the end of my canvas is nice and big. Nice. Let's go for the ones on the outside next. Excellent. Running out of brown, so I'm just going to grab some more. Now I'm only grabbing a small portion of paint at a time, as much as I think I'll need for each step, just because it does dry out quite quickly on the palette. So it's all right to grab more, but it just seems a bit of a waste to add a huge amount and then have it drying on you and not being able to use it. Excellent, so I'm just dragging them out a little bit further. Lovely. So I want to get another dark tone in there, which is going to be my blue. Oh, let's move the dog water away. Dog's decided to dig. So I'm adding a little bit of a darker blue tone to these now. This is going to be an extra shadow tone, and we're also going to add some yellow on top as well, and this is going to bring us our mossy green tones as well. Then for my yellow, dipping straight in, no need to wipe your palette knife off. Let's add some green through there. So adding that yellow right on top. Going to mix with our dark blue, we get our mossy tones. I'm going to drag that out a bit. When I've got less on my palette knife, I'm going to drag it out and create texture between my lumps that I've got there. So I also don't want that solid yellow colour to show through, so I'm just going to blend it a little bit extra whenever it looks too solid. So just scraping it out to create texture between our little lumps of the jetty coming out. I'm loving this. Excellent. Let's bring in some extra moss on top. So I'm going to grab some of my yellow and mix it with my dark blue. So I'm just folding them together. Let's add a little bit of extra moss on top of these. Beautiful, and a little bit of moss hanging off our bit at the end of the jetty. Let's get some highlights in there. So I've got a little bit of white left on my palette that I can scrape off, but if you're running out, just grab some extra. That's just going to create a little highlight on top where it's shimmering. Bit more of highlighted moss. Where are we missing some? Maybe a little bit in between. Top. Okay, so that's the basis of it done. Then if you want to add anything extra, so you can add like a shimmer to the water, which I'm going to do next, or you can add some extra tones or some clouds to the sky. Just have a play with it, feel a bit free with it, and just see where it takes you, see what textures and tones come out. So I'm going to go in with a bit of extra white for my water. And I actually think I want to bring in some extra watercolours. So I've got the light blue and the dark blue, but I think I'd like some teal in there too, because it's my favourite colour and I like to incorporate it in my paintings. So I'm going to grab some of my yellow, mix that into my light blue. Teddy, no, that's my paint water. This is your water. That's my fault for putting it in a dog water bowl. Excellent. So I've got a light tealy blue in there. Let's see if I can add that. Nice. So I'm going to add this, so before we kind of just smudged it around, this time I'm just going to add it in little streaks. This is going to create little ripples in the water. Now the main thing to focus on when we're doing this is, well, to not focus on is doing some lines. So we want it to all feel quite random rather than solid rows of lines coming through. And if you do get some lines, just go a bit mad with the palette knife and scribble it around a bit. I'd rather it be a scribble than too many lines in there. Too many rows of lines. We don't want rows. And a little bit behind here too. Beautiful, I love that colour. Nice, let's get some whites in there too. So just going in, taking a little bit on the palette knife, and I'm just dragging that through as well. So this is our final stage, the highlight phase. And I'm just scribbling my palette knife back and forth. And this is giving it a nice shimmery effect on the water. A little bit in here as well, just so we can see that coming through. Bit of extra scraping lines on the other side too. Beautiful. Anywhere else you'd like to put a highlight? So I might put a highlight at the top of my jetty pier. Oh, what used to be a jetty. Running out of white, let's grab a little bit extra. I'm getting a dead leg, so I'm going to finish up soon. Nice, and then a little bit of an extra white highlight to our little lumps here. Oh, that one got a little bit big. Let's scribble it in there. Yeah, nice. I'm going to add some extra white in this little section here, so it gives the illusion that it's crashing a little bit where it's reaching this section of the beach. Last bit of highlights in there. And we are done. Thank you so much for following along on my first ever beach tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I've hoped you've enjoyed the nice relaxed and very loose style of painting with a palette knife. Hopefully see you again soon.